I had heard Ken Harris say there's this guy at Disney's who's supposed to be tremendous, called Milt Kahl. And Milt told me that he always had to animate 2 minutes of most of the main Disney characters for Walt to approve it. So Milt would take the story drawings and the designs that Mark might be delivering, or certainly did a lot of those, and Milt would then do 2 minutes of it until Walt said, "That's it," and then Milt said, it would go to the other guys, and Milt said, "When it leaves my desk, gravity gets it." And anyway, so for his whole life, he was working to keep the level high all the time, and he could never get a stretch on his own. So what happened was, on the Jungle Book, for the first time, he was able to do whole sequences by himself. The thing with animation is so damn complicated to know all this stuff. But the main point is the performance. You have to learn this stuff in order to be able to forget it all, or just have it built into your blood, and you give the performance, which is what the great guys do. And anyway, here he does. It's the tiger comes out, and it is both a tiger weighing 800 pounds or something, and it's also a caricature of George Saunders at the same time, who did the voice, and it's also a self-portrait of Milt. I went back to my studio in this state of shock, and I sat up most of the night until about 4 in the morning. I wrote a very long letter. I said, "Dear Milt Kahl, I've heard about you, blah, 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 and I have just seen the Jungle Book, and there are 10 sequences where I noticed this one hand, and I'm assuming it's you, because I've never seen anything like it." And I also said, I don't know how that peak of solo virtuosity, I don't see how anybody could ever reach it. I mean, you've had the Hot House Disney thing, all those years of experience, and starting, he was the lead animator on Pinocchio. He designed the final Pinocchio character and led the lead, and he'd done all this stuff, and I just said, I don't think people like me are ever going to get a chance. You need to have all that, and you are obviously a genius. And so I wrote this long letter, you see, and sent it off, and back came a letter. I had been right on 9 of the sequences. The one I missed was Ollie Johnson at the end. But he was very impressed that I'd spotted his work, you see, because this is the first time he's done all this stuff on his own. A few letters went back and forth, and he was a trout fisherman, and he was coming with his wife to go trout fishing. I'm going to have to take my coat off for this. He came to my studio. He says, I haven't met him, right? And he's a big guy. He had rickets as a child, and so he had this hunch, and slightly, but it's big. And the thing was backlit. It was Soho Square, and the light came in with these big Georgian windows, and this big shape came in, followed by the wife. And then there was a big door and another big bunch of glass thing, and in came the shape again. So I didn't know what to do. I ran up to him, and I started shining his shoes. As he comes in, you see. And now he has to pass a whole bunch of these secretaries, attractive secretaries. But he doesn't look at the secretaries. He says, "Joe, you don't have to keep doing that." And I said, yes, I do. And he said, he paused, and he said, there's a big painting on the wall, a bunch of men's heads. And he said, "Who did that?" And I said, "Oh, that's one of my paintings, it's early stuff." And he said, "Well, you can stop shining because you draw better than me." And I said, "Oh, no." And he says, then he says, "Well, on the other hand, keep shining, because you can't animate worth shit. So boy, did I get to work. And we went into the boardroom. I got up, and we had a boardroom in here. So we went in, and I said, "Oh, how did you ever get that tiger to weigh so much, and be a tiger and a cartoon? How did you ever do that?" And he said, "Well, I know where the weight is. You see, I do where there's a contact, where a foot contacts the ground before it takes the weight, and before the and then I do this drawing where it's just touching, and then I do the next step, and I do it just where it's just touching, and I do this on a two-legged person or a four-legged animal, and then it makes it easy to animate. You see, I've got my contact positions." And he said, "Then I go back in. I put in where it takes the weight and the muscles bulge, but I put in the middle one. And then I put in the middle, the median." He said, "I do that, and then I fill in all the other bits." And I said, and he said, "Oh, I've got it the wrong way around. I first asked, what do you do first?" And that's what he said. And I said, "How do you get the weight?" And he said, "Well, I know where the weight is, and when it's taking the weight, the muscles bulge, and I know where the weight, when it's just traveling along to the next bit, and where it takes it. That's it." And that was a fantastic lesson in 2 sentences he did.